Hello, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. So today I have a guest with me, Miss Felicia. Her YouTube channel is FR Humphrey, which will be tagged in this video. And I saw Miss Felicia the other day over on Make This Go Viral, Miss V's channel, and she was saying how she was a retiree. And I reached out to her to ask if she would come over here and chat with us about some retirement planning. And so, Miss Felicia, can you tell us a little bit about your channel? And thank you for taking this time out on your Sunday afternoon to chat with me.
Um, hey, hi everyone. Um, I'm Felicia. My channel is FR Humphrey, and on my channel, I mainly do. I do a lot of different things, but my channel is really about how I cope from with day-to-day living through creative things. So I garden and I play with string is what I call it. I sew, I crochet, I knit, I craft, I do music, I cook, those kinds of things. And so I have a variety of things on my channel that I do. How is this sound?
Oh, really bad echoes. Okay.
Okay.
Miss V is telling us that it doesn't sound good. Close everything except StreamYard. Miss Felicia said that she didn't have anything else open. Do you have all other tabs closed except for just StreamYard? Is what Miss V is recommending?
Is that any better? Mm-mm. Still hearing it.
Any better, Miss V, or anyone in the chat? Could you let us know? Let's keep talking a little bit so that they can gauge if it's coming through clearly.
I'm still hearing the echo, and I don't. Oh, hang on a second.
She said YouTube is open somewhere.
Let me see. I'm still hearing it.
You're still hearing it.
There is nothing open. You know what? Let me try one more thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna come back in.
All right. Okay. So while we're waiting for Miss Felicia to get back here. Okay. I will try that, Miss V. Thank you for commenting and trying to give us some direction on how to get this going. So on my channel here, I'm striving to retire early myself, as well as making sure to try to encourage others to um, plan for retirement and have it in mind from your 20s and 30s, because it's just gonna benefit yourself. I'm trying to encourage you to aim to take care of your own older self so that we're not running short of money, so that we're not dependent upon our kids and Social Security, pension. I want to make sure that we're able to keep living the way that we want to and be able to support ourselves. And I really think that focusing on your 401k and just planning for retirement is the way. And I think that we have our chance now, and especially we have our chance to get started on this and focus on this when we're young, and I don't want people to let the opportunity pass them by. So let's start talking a little bit, Miss Felicia, see if it sounds any better.
Hello. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so
I've tried.
I'm gonna mute myself and see. I'm gonna ask a question and maybe you can talk a little bit and see if there's any improvement with that. But I'm gonna mute myself for a second. So let's see. First, I'll try to ask this question to you. Who helped you with planning for retirement? Who did you reach out to? Who was the biggest impact in helping you to stay on track on how much to contribute? Would you say it was HR, the brokerage company? Who was the first person or resource that helped you with your retirement planning?
So my first, the very first thing that impacted me when it comes to retirement planning was my dad. My dad retired when I was a freshman in college. So I graduated from high school. My dad retired, and then I left for college. In that order, I think I graduated in June. He retired in July, and I left for college in July. And so my goal was to retire from the big beginning. I wanted a career, and I wanted to retire because my dad retired, and I wanted to do that. And then once I began working, um, HR provided some information about retirement, and I worked for the government. I worked civil service, and so we did have retirement planning um, and retirement training as part of our um, as part of it was just part of our HR experience. They offered it periodically, not every year, but every 2 or 3 years. They had early career training, mid career training, late career training when it came to retirement. And then also, when I was in college, I did take an economics course, and it was a required economics course. And the professor was one of those people who shared a lot of information that was not necessarily related to the coursework, but to life in general, about investments, about compound interest, um, about just really financial management. And so I had a lot of resources that were available to me that I took advantage of. None of it was required. You didn't have to go to any of the trainings. They were offered. And I went to the trainings. I read the books. I did the research. So those were the main resources that I had.
Okay, okay. So about what age did you start working and um did you have any like interruptions in your employment or were you just working from start to retirement?
Um, so the echo comes back when you unmute. Okay, when you mute it, the echo is not there. I can't see the comments on. I can't see the comments on the from the people in the live, so I don't know if Miss V is giving any feedback on the sound. But anyways, I started working at for real working, career working. I was junior in college. So I was 19, 20 years old. I was in a cooperative education program where I got hired, and I was working every other semester. So I work a semester, I go to school semester, and when I was working, the money that I made working paid for my next semester of school. And so but that also ended up being my permanent job. When I got out of school, they offered me a permanent job. And so when I started working as a junior in college, the my retirement, I was locked into a retirement system at that time. And so the monies that I was making, retirement was coming out of that. And would you like for me to talk about the retirement system that I was in?
Yeah, so you're basically saying you got a little bit even of an early start because you were still in college. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, if you can talk about that as well as I know it's going to be relative to what the person is earning, but Was it a percentage of your salary? Did you, over the years, did you increase? Like, did you go from, say, 8% and then keep increasing your contribution to whatever the type of retirement that you had? And like I said, I know if people out here are earning 40,000, some are earning 90,000, but how much of a percentage of your income were you putting towards retirement? Just to give incentive and an idea to people of what you did. And I understand that this is many years of you contributing, but
Correct.
when whatever you can remember at what stage, even if it's when you got to a later age or towards 50, the 50 to 60 range, what were you contributing, and how much were you contributing significantly more, do you think, than when you were younger? And I don't mean to make the question, but just share a little bit about that.
Okay.
All right, I'm going
Um,
to.
First of all, the retirement system that I was in is a three-pronged system. So there was your retirement. Um, yeah, there was your retirement, there was Social Security, and then there was the 401k. So it was a three-pronged system. The retirement was standard. I don't remember exactly what the percentage is, but it was a standard percentage of your income that came out automatically. You didn't really have any choice about that. It came out automatically. It was a standard percentage. I worked for the government. That's what the government does. Okay. Federal government. That's what they do. It's a standard percentage. It comes out of every check. No choices about that. That was the retirement. So that was automatic. I didn't have to worry about that. I was going to get that if I stayed the course, was vested into it, and worked my quote unquote years, put my years in, I would get that. The second part of that is Social Security. Social Security is also standard percentage, comes out of every check. Um, you get your quarters in, then you get it when you get to an eligible age. So I didn't have to worry about that. The third part of it was the 401k. Now, the 401k is the part where you have the most choice about it, you have the most decision space about it. Um, they automatically gave you, you automatically got 1/2% of your income into your 401k. If you did nothing, you got 1/2% of your income in your 401k. If you put in up to 5%, they would match it up to 5%. So you put in 1%, they give you another up until 5% of your income. So I immediately put in 1% um, when I started. My very first, I went ahead and put in 1%. So they were matching that. Um, and they will match it up to 5%. And so what I did early on is every time, and if you work for the government, you get periodic cost of living increases, and then different kinds of increases based on performance. If you do your job well, then you may get a raise in a year or a year and a half or 2 years or 3 years, whatever. So anytime I would get any of those, if the president and Congress said that we were going to give you a cost of living increase in January, I raised it 1%. Every time I got an increase in my salary, I raised it 1% until I was up to the 5% where I was putting in 5, they were putting in 5. So I was getting the matching funds. In addition to that, you could put in up to 10% back then into it. That was the maximum amount you could put in. So I continued to increase it until I got to the maximum, which was 10%. Then the rules changed. And they changed the rules where you could put in up to, I think it's 17.5%. That may have changed.
Okay.
It went up to 17.5% or a flat dollar amount. There was a certain dollar amount that you could put in. So what did I do? Every time I got a raise, I put it in more. And when I say raise, I'm like I said, I'm talking any kind of raise. I'm not talking about I applied for a job and I got, a higher GS level. I did that too. But if also, like I said, just even a cost of living increase, I would up the percentage. And the reason I did this, and let me explain it. The reason I did it is when you get an increase in pay, even if it's like a 3% increase in pay,
Mhm.
you get an increase in taxes at the same time. And so if you take the money, they're going to take half or 25% or whatever. They're going to take it in taxes and other things. They're going to take it. So you're not going to see that full 3% of that increase. If you take part of that money and increase your 401k, that is pre-tax money. And it's a diversion. You don't pay taxes
Yes.
on that part that goes in your 401k.
Yeah, you
So
saw an
that
opportunity there.
reduces it reduces your income tax liability. So what happens is you get a raise, you're not going to see it anyway. You put it in your 401k, you don't see the difference. In your bring home pay and your income, you don't see the difference. You may see a slight difference, a slight increase in it, but it's not jarring. It's not like, oh, I got to take out this money to put it in my retirement. I got to take out this money and it's hitting you hard every check. It's not. You don't see the difference. So that's why I would do it when I got a raise so that the impact would be less on my daily life. I didn't have the money to start with. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Before the raise, I didn't have it. After the raise, I still didn't have it because it was going to retirement. And
Thank
so there
you.
was
Thank you. Yes, I understand.
so it was no net loss in there. It didn't feel like a loss. And it's actually a gain because we're talking about early in my career, increasing, slowly increasing until I got to the max level. And it actually didn't take that long to get to that maximum level where you're putting in, as the maximum that you're allowed to put in. But in addition to that, whenever I worked overtime, I put money aside till I had enough money to do a Roth IRA and index fund. That's a different kind of investment. The Roth is retirement, but the other one is just a different kind of investment.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining that. And I hope people are listening, especially younger people, because what Miss Felicia just told us is basically she found an opportunity to pay herself more by just looking at the big picture of, am I going to pay the government or am I going to take this opportunity to build up my own retirement? So I thank you so much for explaining it that way, because I think you painted the picture that some people need to hear and take advantage of, and not just be living for today. Plan for the future too. I mean, I know people don't want to sacrifice all the vacations and all the fun today, but
There was no sacrifice
there
there.
was okay.
I mean, there was, in a way, there was, but I've always been fiscally conservative when it comes to my money. And like I said, when I say that my father was really the first influence on me, my father was the first influence on me. My dad built a house for his family with no mortgage, which is unheard of, really. Um, and it was unheard of back then. But what he did is that he bartered with friends who had skills. He bought supplies as he had the money for it. And stored them until he had enough to break ground, and then he bartered with friends to put in the foundation to build the house. And so what happened is he built it as he had the money to build it, and there was no mortgage ever on the house. And so you're not paying for that, forever. And he didn't talk to me about it. I don't think we ever had a conversation about it, but I was observing what he was doing. Some of the things that he would say was, if you can't afford it, don't get it. Um,
Definitely.
he didn't believe in carrying debt. And I mean, that's unheard of these days. Well, sort of, but I don't have any debt. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't owe on my house. I don't owe on my car. I don't carry any debt. And that has saved me. Oh my gosh, it saved me time and time again in this life, because stuff happens. And if something happens and you've got a lot of debt, then it just compounds. So,
Yes, definitely, definitely.
but
So,
it doesn't mean that I didn't have vacations, and I didn't have that we didn't have, a house, or anything like that. Yeah, I did have a mortgage on my house at one time, but I paid it off. And I paid it off quick, fast, and in a hurry, because I didn't want to have any debt. I think I paid off my house in, I can't remember, less than 15 years.
okay. So maybe I shouldn't put it like that. You were living within your means. You were
Absolutely.
contributing, but you were also living within your means, and
Absolutely.
living the life that you wanted.
Yes.
But I think today a lot of people are not doing that. They're running themselves into debt. They're focusing on the fun and just kind of overlooking the investment into the 401k, into uh, index funds, whatever it is. I think this part of the planning and investment strategy is being overlooked. And focusing on paying off your house, things like that. I don't know if people that are going towards retirement are making the steps that you did. And I didn't even know as much as I've learned in this conversation about you prior, but it seems like you've always been on track to make retirement be able to come along for you, and not be one of these people out here that have to work, that feel that they have to work to supplement their income when they're above the age of 67 years old. Um, so, in all of your years of working, did you ever have to borrow against any of the savings that you were putting aside for retirement?
I've never borrowed against my retirement.
Okay. I've talked to a
Not that
few.
I couldn't have. It was possible. Your 401k is your money, and you can borrow against it, if you want to. I just never had to. I'm one of Okay, let me go back and state this. You have to decide what your goals are. My goal was to retire. I wanted to retire. From the beginning, from the very beginning, I wanted to retire. And so I worked toward retirement. And I retired at 57, which was the earliest retirement age for me, with full benefits at 57. I will get Social Security when I get old enough. It's there. Um, and, you know, I was working toward that. If that's not your goal, then that's not your goal. Work toward what your goal is. That was my goal. The other thing is, I also believe in saving for emergencies, and I mean, having an emergency savings separate from my retirement. So there were times when we hit hard times. There were times when my husband wasn't working for a while. And so we went from being a two-income family to a one-income family. I did not borrow against my 401k at that time, did not borrow against my retirement, but I had emergency savings at that time that we were able to rely on until we got through that situation. Emergency savings and retirement savings are two different things.
Yes, yes.
And you need to separate that. Emergency savings, I I can't tell you how to do that. All I can tell you is that when they say you need to have 1, 2, 3, 6 months worth of your salary in savings, do it.
Okay.
Whatever it takes, do it. Because look at 2019, 2020, when people were losing their jobs. I'm gonna have to say this word because it makes me laugh. because of the panoramic, when
Okay.
people were losing their jobs because things were shutting down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you didn't have something to rely on, what are you doing for your family?
Yeah.
Put aside some money for emergencies, for rainy days. This is not retirement planning. This is stuff happens planning, and stuff happens um, all the time. And so, like I said, I'm one of those people who have an emergency savings on top of my retirement. And here's the deal about my retirement: I don't know how long I'm gonna live. I don't know how long I need that money to last. But I know one thing: when I'm gone, it goes to my kids. Whatever's left in that account when I'm gone, those three accounts, whatever's left, that it goes to my kids. And so I can still live my life now, and enjoy my life now with on those funds. And um, if I die tomorrow, then my kids will have something.
So yeah, I wanted to ask that question because I've talked to a few people recently. I even talked to someone and the person just turned 60. They took $30,000 out of their 401k when they turned the 59 and a half for no apparent reason. And I've talked to other also younger people, I guess maybe in their 40s, taking money out to buy a car or various reasons, emergencies, things that didn't really sound like much of an emergency to me, but they decided that, oh, I have all of this money over here, I'm going to tap into it. And like the person, well, I'm not going to get into that story because I did sit down with this other person also, and they told the story. But I wanted to ask that because I wanted to hear from your perspective, someone that was really on track. Just share with the viewers that what you said. I'm glad that you didn't have a story of, yeah, something happened and I had nowhere else to go, because this is the way that it should be, is that emergency savings is your retirement fund is not your emergency fund. So
Right,
yes,
right.
yes.
And the reason your retirement money is not your emergency fund is that you can take out a loan for emergency. You can't take out a loan for retirement. You
Yes,
know
and
what I'm
I'm
saying?
not going to
You can
focus
take
on
out a loan
repeating.
to get your kids through college, but can you take out a loan to get you through retirement?
Mhm.
No. And that's why it's not your emergency fund. You have an emergency fund. Your retirement is for retirement. And that's for my monthly income and retirement. That's what it comes from. I get that from my retirement. But for emergencies, if I need to do something with the house, I'm not going to take it out of my retirement. I'm going to take out a loan, and I'm going to, pay that loan back to do that if I have to. But if I have an emergency fund for that, or if I have a fund for that, which I do, I have a fund for household repairs, then I don't have to take out a loan for that. And that's what I'm saying. You plan for those things. There's some things that you're going to have to do. Um, when I when I turned, put it like, when I turned 50, I knew retirement was on the horizon, and so I started replacing things in my house. So everything, all of the major systems in my house were replaced before I retired. The only thing I didn't replace was my windows, but air conditioning, hot water heater, appliances, roof, all of that was done before I retired, because I don't want my retirement income going to that. I was working overtime, I was, doing temporary promotions, all those things, so I could take care of all of those expenses. Those are major life expenses, so that when I retire, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about that.
Okay. So going back to when you were younger, did your father contribute towards paying for your education when you were in college back?
Okay, so I'm of a certain age that education was not that expensive
Okay. Okay.
when I went to school. Yes, my father contributed toward paying for my education. My parents paid for my first 2 years of school. Um, with they paid in addition to. I mean, I had grants and scholarships, and my parents paid the balance
Okay,
of
so
that.
that's not a concern like people today buried in student loan debt. So if you had not paid, focus on paying off the house, could you imagine your life now if you still had your mortgage payment, your mortgage, insurance, taxes, whatever? How would life look if you still had the mortgage payment at where you're in your stage of life right now?
Um, it would be fine.
It would be.
It will be fine. And for full disclosure, um, I have my husband and I have two houses, and so we do have a mortgage on a second house. Um,
But
but it's doable, and he's retired as well.
okay.
And we have two kids in college,
Oh,
so
okay.
we're good. We're good. And then the other thing, with college, when I was in college, I didn't have major college debt. I owed less than $3,000 when I got out of college, but that's because I didn't take out very many loans in school, and I was in the cooperative education program. Like I said, once when I my junior year in college, once I started working, I paid for everything. My job, I work a semester, it made enough money for me to pay for everything 100% for the next semester. And
Yeah,
so when I
yeah.
got out, I didn't have a lot of
That
debt to worry about. And things are different now. College is more expensive now. My kids will have debt when they get out of college. It won't be absorb. I can't say the word,
hmm
but it won't be that extremely high debt. But they will have debt when they get out of college, and I will help them pay it off. I'll be able to help them pay off that debt. But the thing I said, I can borrow money. They can borrow money for school. I can't borrow money for my retirement.
Yes, yes. I think that's something else that people need to think about. Especially if they are in their 50s or late 40s, 50s, and they're behind in focusing on retirement savings. They might have to say, I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to focus on paying for my children's higher education because I'm behind with saving for retirement. And all
Right.
that's going to do is kind of create the cycle of once they're older, they're going to be dependent upon their children to supplement their income. Which like right now, I did a video a couple months ago, I think, about what they call the sandwich generation, that people that are kind of in my stage of life where I have to contribute towards my younger daughter, my teenage daughter. I have to drive, I have to contribute financially to her because she cannot drive yet. But then I also have to do the same thing for my mother. So my mother's health is in a place now where she cannot drive, she cannot do certain things. So I kind of have to help her in a way that I wasn't expecting to have to do. But this is what poor planning can lead to. Um, but you touched on a few of my questions here. You were able to retire at 57 years old. You're not tapping into Social Security maybe until 67, I'm guessing, or try to push that out to the max
Whenever. Yeah.
whenever.
Yeah.
But as you were saving over the years, as you were investing over the years for your retirement, were you even factoring Social Security into it, or you were just it was kind of if that's a part of it, it's there. If not, I've done enough to know.
Well, our retirement system is really based on the three, like I said, the three prongs, Social Security being part of that. And so, yeah, I did factor that into it. But when I was looking at retirement, one of the things I did is I looked at my 401k. I looked at the balance in my 401k, and I looked at it and I said, if I live to be 85, um, and I got equal payments from today until I'm 85 years old, how much money would I have? And I looked at that and I was like, I can live on that. So that means that if I can live on my 401k, then my retirement, which is the second prong of it, my retirement can pay those other expenses, like, can pay the taxes and insurance, because I have to pay, for my health insurance and my, those kinds of things. That can pay the other stuff. I'm living on my 401k, but my retirement is paying those expenses. And then the Social Security will be bonus. It's like they'll just be bonus. And so that's the way I looked at it when I decided that I was going to go ahead and retire. It's like, how much money is in my 401k and how long can I live? Now, I might live to be 95. And so what then? Well, my I still have those other two prongs. I still have the Social Security part and I have the retirement part and the 401k, even if it runs out before then, I still have that. So, and I have savings. I still have savings on top of
You
that.
seem like you have a great understanding of when to tap into which bucket and to allow the rest of it to stay in place and continue to compound and grow for you. Um, so yeah, you are like seem like you are the example for people to see of what you need to be doing. And so you said that you took advantage of classes and opportunities, seminars or whatever to stay on track with this and to have a direction.
Yes,
Um,
definitely. If they offered a retirement seminar, we were shut down. It was a government shutdown. We were shut down. Government shut. I worked for the government, federal government. And, periodically we had those. We were shut down and not getting paid. I think I missed 3 checks during that shutdown. And they
mhm.
had a retirement seminar, and I was there during the shutdown. I was there because at that point, I guess actually that seminar, that shutdown is probably one of the I was close to being of age, and it was one of those saying, "All I need is 3 bad days before I'm leaving this place." That was one of the bad days when the government shut down that time, and I went because there was an expert, and you know how well maybe you don't know, but working for the government red tape is no joke. And so knowing all of the ins and outs of the retirement system and how this applies to me, and both me and my husband work for the federal government, and so it's like, well, what if does this? How does that affect me? What if I do this? How does that affect him? All of those things. I needed somebody who knew the ins and out of that to explain it to me. I needed resources to have it. I want it in writing. I want the book. I want to highlight it so I can come back and look at it and study it and see what does it mean, and what do I have to do. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. You need to really look into it and study and figure out what's what. And I didn't do a lot of studying going early on. Early on, my focus was just sinking in as much money into it as I could, um, so that I would have it when I needed it. That was my thing. I need to prepare for my future. Um, and then you touched on compounding. I need to talk about that just a little bit because most people don't seem to understand. Most people don't think about the impact of compounding. And one of the examples they would always tell us is if you contributed 10% of your income to your retirement the first 10 years of your career and then stopped and didn't put another dime in, you would have more money to retire on than if you contributed 10% the last 10 years of your career. Because the time the money is in the system, the compounding, the interest upon the interest it's got 30 years to grow. You put it in for 10 years, you've got 20 more years for that to grow. You put it in the last 10 years, it'll only grow on for 10 years. And so that compounding makes a big difference. Early on in your career, when you're making the least amount of money, for most of us, that little bit of money that you put in ends up being the bulk of what you have at retirement. But don't get me wrong, when I turned 50 and I was eligible to put in an additional, I think it was $5,000 or $6,000 a year. I don't know what it was. I was able to put in additional funds. I put in as much as I could, as much as I could. Know that I didn't cap out on that because I didn't have it. But every time I got a little bit extra, I put it in, because even that little bit helps to bump that balance up on that account. And the other thing with a 401k, you have options on the distribution of that money. You can have it in government securities, which don't get a lot, but you're not going to lose it. You can have it in stocks, which may earn a whole lot more, but you can lose it. You can have it in, I don't know all the funds, but you can have it in, I don't even know how many different. I would say we had maybe 16 different options
Yeah,
of how
different
to
sectors to kind of diversify and give
diversify
yourself
those
more
funds.
protection on.
I don't know all that stuff. I'm not versed in all of that stuff. But I had a set amount for myself that I put in government securities. I don't want to lose this. So it's in government securities. It doesn't earn a lot of interest, but you know what? I will always have that. And then I had some that I put in stocks. And it's like I want it to earn as much as it can.
Yes.
And I put it in there. And as it and I didn't look at it. Long-term investments, it's not day trading, it's not playing the market. It's long-term. Over the long term, it will grow. That was my mentality. And I promise you, I lost the first quarter of this year. The first quarter of this year, and I looked at the amount of dollars that I lost, and I was like, "Oh Lord, how many?" And I said, "You know what? I'm not going to look at it, because that money is not for this year. That money is for 5 years down the line. It'll grow. It'll come back, and I've gained it all back. I have to admit." And so you have to get yourself in that mindset that the market is going to grow over time.
Yes.
It
Yes.
might not, but you have to put yourself in that mindset, because you can't worry about the ups and downs of the market. What you have to do is realize this is a long-term strategy. As you get closer to your retirement, you might want to change that, but this is a long-term strategy. And so you have to get yourself in that mindset, because if you're not, then first of all, you're going to stress yourself out. And then second of all, you're going to make moves at the wrong time. There's times to make moves in the market. When do you make moves? You buy low, you
And
sell high. That's the rule.
yeah, Miss Felicia, you know you really are on the ball with all of this. You're saying so many things that I try to bring in my little bite-sized pieces to my viewers, to my subscribers. Yes, please, guys, what Miss Felicia was talking about with the investment calculator, and take a look. I think I'm gonna try to remember to pin that in this video also. Put some numbers in there and really get a vision of what she's explaining here. That amount of money that you can invest over, from age 20 to 30, imagine, take a look at what that is going to be when you are 65 years
60,
old.
right,
We have
right.
to look at the big long-term picture that she is describing here. And this is what she's been focusing on since she was a junior in college,
Right.
and was able to, even at those smaller percentages, as she was building towards getting to her first 5% in and her employer's first 5%, all of that together, going towards the years when you're 50 years old and now you're contributing extra, all of that is what has built what you have today. So, and so as far as your husband, do you think that you were more mindful of these things and kind of helped him to make his investment plans, or was he kind of equally as involved with going to the classes and getting a handle on what his investments were doing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I generally don't talk much about my husband because he's
Oh,
got
okay.
his own story to tell. But I will say it this way: my husband and I are very different fiscally when it comes to things. Um,
Okay. All right. We can move on to
I'm
something else.
very conservative fiscally, and he
Uh-huh.
is much more. I'm more risk averse than he is. He will definitely take a risk, and so like his portfolio, and he does some day trading and some he plays in the stock market and he does other things. I don't do all those things. I don't. I have my core things that I do. But when it comes to retirement, we both work for the government, and so we both had access to the same resources.
Mhm.
His 401k looked a lot different than my 401k, what he invested in. Like I said, he takes more risk. He probably, as far as I know, he might have had 100% of his in stocks. I don't know.
Okay.
That was it. We talked about it, from time to time, but that's one of the things. That's a marriage and financial planning is a whole nother thing. And I tell you, it can get kind of dicey. My husband and I married later. We were both over 30. When we were married, we were both established and we had our way of doing things. And we didn't change that when we married. We basically,
Mhm.
you manage this, yours, I manage this, mine, and we work together on things that's ours.
I,
And
I think
so,
I think that's women in general. We are less. We have a
so
lower tolerance for the risk
the
and
risk, yeah.
yes.
But
But
I mean, he did much the same as far as his goal was to retire. He retired before I did. He retired, I don't know if he was younger. I don't know if he was younger than I was when he retired, but he definitely retired before I did because he had the age and the service years of service before I did. I had the years, but I didn't have the age. I had the years of service when I was 51. So I had to work 6 more years just to get the age, because the earliest retirement age was 57 for
okay.
me. And so I had to work six additional years after I had the 30 years of service. But yeah, he retired at his first retirement age, and yeah, he has the same. I mean, we had the same
Mhm.
kind of the same. We're under the same retirement system. But there's two other things that I wanted to mention about retirement,
Okay.
because today's different than when I started work. When I started work, and when my working career was during a time when people did work one job. I worked for the same agency in the government for the entirety of my
Mhm.
career.
Mhm.
Um,
You don't have that anymore.
and people don't do that anymore. But when they switched over our retirement system from it used to be the civil service retirement system, and then they switched it over to the federal employees retirement system. And when they switched it over, they um, they made it portable because 401ks are portable. You can take them with you when you switch jobs. Social Security is portable. It goes with you no matter where you're working. Now, our retirement itself is not portable, but those two prongs are. And so for those people who are working a job, remember that your 401k can go with you wherever you go. It's not like it's tied to that one job. So when you move jobs, you can still take it with you. And that's the nice thing about it. I didn't move jobs. I mean, I stayed with the same agency. And so that was one thing, but a lot of these retirement systems, you can take them with you. And so then you're not having disruptions and starting all over again. So
Yes, yes. This is also a huge point that I want people to know that I have talked about. Make sure that your retirement stays invested. If you change jobs, make sure that, even if you were at a job, say for 2 years, a very small time period, it's a small amount of money, you're leaving, the brokerage says, we don't really roll over that amount or whatever, they want to pay it out to you. Make sure you are keeping it invested. You are figuring out, am I going to get a traditional Roth IRA? You find yourself an investment vehicle to put it into, and make sure your money stays invested. And this is a huge issue for younger people. Like what she's describing, she had that longevity of just staying in one job for her career. Whereas I know I was laid off 2 times within a 4-year time span. So that's not what I want. It's not what I want, but I don't want these blips of, I worked for this company for 3 years, this one for 4 years.
Right.
This is what is occurring. And I have to be mindful, and I have to stay on top of this. And I recently had a conversation with someone who was in this situation where they were paid out, I think about $7,000 or $8,000. I did a whole video about it because it hurt my heart that they received money, and I'm just finding out about it. I'm just starting to have these conversations with people around me, and they let that money become uninvested, probably spent some of it, put it in the local bank where it's not doing anything, where that money could have now been over $20,000 had they just moved it from where it was into another investment. We have the opportunity to make better money choices. If we only know better, we can do better. And a lot, Miss Felicia has shared so many important things that she was on track with that can help us to have a better future for ourselves. So I hope you've been taking note and really thinking, am I on track?
And then there are other resources. A lot of my resources were within my job, but there are other resources out there that you can tap into for these kinds of information. And Google can be your friend. So but there are there are people online. There are people on YouTube. You have to, you have to have discernment when it comes to these things. But a lot of this information, um, you can find it on your own and figure out there, like you were saying earlier about the calculator. You can look at compound interest, how compounding works, and figure out, what you need to do. You can, I mean, there are little savings tricks that I've done over the years they're simple, they're easy, they make it. One example, you buy a car. I bought my first vehicle when straight out of college. They had some incentives for college graduates. They had, deferred payments, low interest rates, da da da. I went into it. I bought my first vehicle that way. I had a job. I set up an account with my bank that pulled the money, an allotment that pulled the money straight out of my check to pay that bill. When that vehicle was paid for, I think I financed it for 4 years. When that vehicle was paid for, I didn't stop that allotment. I let that allotment keep going into that savings account, because guess what? I was used to paying that bill every month anyway. I didn't miss that money. What happens the next time I get ready to buy a car?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
got money for a car. I got the money. I don't have to take out another loan for that. I can take out another loan, but I don't have to. That you already paying that every month. I ain't miss it. Those are little things that you can take advantage of, to save. And then what that did is that helped me to build up my emergency fund. My emergency fund for when the government shut down and they decide not to pay me for 3 checks.
Yes.
How am I going to eat? Well, I got an emergency fund for that.
So, Miss Felicia, you mentioned that you got a great example just watching your father and seeing what he did for your family and seeing him able to retire. Now, as you had children and whatever young people are around you, I don't know, nieces, nephews, whomever, godchildren, do you think that you said you saw the example, but he never really spoke to you about it? Do you think that you've changed that within, your way of dealing with your family nowadays, or do you see a change in the way that people are? Are we talking about money differently than your father's generation?
I talk about money and finances and savings with my kids. I don't know that they hear me, but I do talk about it with them, and I help them too when things come up. My son just sent me a text message that said, "Mama, can you send me some money for this class?" He's in college for this class. I'm like, "Can you ask your boss for some more hours?"
Oh,
Because you know, because it's like we already paid tuition for this month, and now this other class is popping up. So we got to make some adjustments. You know, I shouldn't say this, but it's true. I could tell my kids that money don't grow on trees, except it does because I'm a forester, and trees are, money on a stump. You need to sell some, get your money. That's a joke, forester inside joke. But but that's the thing. You got to look at it. You have a certain income. You need to look at this is your income, this is your outflow. If they're not matching up, you got to make some changes. You can ask for more hours, or you can cut out some of that stuff that you doing that is not necessary, or you may think it's necessary, but you got to, because they got to match up. They got to match up. I'm not your bank. You can't come to the bank of mama. And so, yeah, we have those conversations. They need to understand I worked all the years. I worked hard so that I could retire. I'm retired. That means you got to work hard so that you can have what you want. I'm not working for you no more.
okay. Your poor planning is not Miss Felicia's
That's
emergency.
exactly right. And don't get me wrong, I paid for the class for the board, but he got some more hours too. We're going to compromise. You need to take this class. You right? Because I want you to get out of school with that degree so that you can live your life on your terms. And I'm going to help you every step of the way. I'm going to help you, but I ain't going to help you unless you help yourself.
Okay.
I'm not going to carry you. That is not happening. You carrying yourself.
Well, I hope those kids listen because you have lots of great information that you have shared with us today.
Thank you for thank you for asking me to come and do this. I enjoyed it.
You
And
did.
if I helped anyone, that is great. That
I
is
hope
really
you
great.
did. I hope that people come back and find this video. I'm going to try to optimize it and tag it and put all the information that draws people to it because everything that you said is very inspiring and good knowledge, a good money mindset. You gave so much great information.
Yeah.
And I haven't been in the chat. I'm not great with doing lives, but everybody who has come through, I see Frank Smith, Tristan Natural, the Stock Explorer, Prez, um, Andre, Miss V, everybody who has been here. I'm probably mentioning people that may not be in the chat right now. Marlene, the word. Thanks to everybody who stopped through. And guys, if you're still here, please don't forget to hit the like button. If you're not already subscribe. Please check out Miss Felicia's channel, FR Humphrey, which is tagged in this video. And you'll be doing a late night crafting live tonight.
Yes. Late night crafting with friends.
Okay.
Crafting and chatting with friends tonight at 11 Central Time on my channel.
All right. So I guess we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much for taking the time out to do this, and thanks for sharing so much knowledge with people that I hope the message gets through to, including myself. I need the inspiration and I need to hear a story like yours. So I'm glad that I was able to connect with such a retiree that had such a great story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys, for watching. Bye, Miss Felicia.
Bye.
Bye.